We are the Morning Hustle.
Yep, it's the Morning Hustle Show. L'Oreal, Kyle Santillan, Alton Walker. And let's talk about something I'm very excited to talk about today. We have a guest, Ms. Robin Rue Simmons. She is leading the charge when it comes to reparations for African-American people here in the U.S. But she's starting locally in her own town, her own city of Evanston, Illinois, which for the people that don't know, sits on that northern border of Chicago. And she's here with us today to talk about it. Ms. Robin Rue Simmons, how are you?
I'm blessed. Grace and peace. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you, man. I know this story, for me, I've been hearing about it for a while now when it comes to the city of Evanston providing reparations for its black citizens. Can you just take us back to the beginning of how you initiated this fight and where are we now with the progress?
Absolutely. So while I was serving as Evanston's 5th Ward City Councilwoman, I led in collaboration with others reparations, hyper-local reparations for the harms that are in Evanston, Illinois. So this is not the reparations for the institution of slavery and all of its legacies, but for specifically what Evanston did. So in 2019, we were able to pass that in November, Resolution 126R19. It established a reparations legislation funded with sales tax from recreational cannabis. We initially added recreational cannabis and real estate transfer taxes. So a total of $20 million has been committed to address the harm to Black people. The people that were harmed happen to be Black. So this is a harm-based redress program for zoning laws that were harmful, stripped away wealth and opportunity from 1919 to 1969. So folks that are eligible lived there in Evanston during that time, or they were a direct descendant. Since then, we have dispersed nearly $8 million of that $20 million commitment. More checks go out as soon as we get the tax revenues in, and we've even expanded the ways that we are providing repair to our community, including some entrepreneurship and educational initiatives as well.
I like that. And I know you say it's hyper-local with Evanston in terms of how they manipulated how people were able to own land and things of that nature, right? But
That's exactly right.
We know redlining and those kind of practices took place all throughout the United States of America. Could you see, some of these other states that are fighting to do the same thing, like in California or whatever state? Could you see them following in Evanston's footsteps?
Well, they are already. So if you go to firstrepair.org, you can see an extensive map where other communities have been inspired by Evanston to take their own steps. May not look exactly like Evanston. Evanston is a flexible model, but the state of California, Illinois, New York, Maryland, other states are coming on as well, and about 100 additional localities. So cities and states and even more institutions like faith institutions and denominations, as well as academic institutions, are beginning to take significant steps, including today and tomorrow. The city of Chicago is actually having their reparations hearings. They appointed a task force under the leadership of Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Yeah. Now, we also know that at this point that you've gotten this underway, the Department of Justice on the federal level is trying to step in and stop some of the progress that you're making when it comes to reparation. What is their argument, and are they making headway with them trying to stop your motion?
Well, I'll tell you that this legal maneuver is pretty predictable, doesn't make it any more comfortable and less of a distraction. But what they've done is they've actually joined Justice Watch. So in 2024, Justice Watch, a conservative organization, filed a lawsuit against Evanston claiming essentially reverse discrimination.
Yeah, right.
So they have several non-Black plaintiffs that are suggesting that they too should be eligible for reparations. They don't live in Evanston. We don't know that they had any relatives that live in Evanston. They are not Black. They were not harmed. But that's what they're claiming. And we've been in that process now for over a year. The Trump Department of Justice has now intervened and joined in that lawsuit with them. And so what this means is the reality is there's a Trump appointed judge. We believe very strongly in the constitutionality of this reparations legislation because it's been thoughtfully narrowly tailored. And that's why it is a specific harm in Evanston, Illinois, a specific legislation that was outlawed when fair housing was passed. So that's why it ends in 1969. And it's a specific community. And the redress is directly correlated to that harm. So if you remember, the reparations benefit is to build wealth and opportunity through housing. So that $25,000 direct benefit initially was to apply towards a down payment on a home, pay down a mortgage balance, make home improvements, or some other way that you could build wealth through home ownership. Eventually, we did expand it to include cash as an option as well. But what we have right now is a coordinated effort through conservative organization using the courts, using political organizing to intimidate not only Evanston, Illinois, but also those 100 localities that I mentioned that have been inspired by Evanston. So really, this is not about Evanston alone. This is not about our little 75,000 folks with 15% Black population.
Right.
This is about making an example out of a city that had the nerve and audacity to pursue reparations.
Exactly.
And
they want to make an example out of it, out of you and the city.
Exactly. Yep. And so, but we're here for it. What I love about Evanston is 2 years ago they filed the suit. We may have dispersed another $2 million since that time. So Evanston stands very firm. Our mayor, BIS, our city council, each of them, our reparations committee that leads this work, our community that stands on this work has not wavered and has not been shaken at all. I also want to add this. I fully believe that this is Donald Trump and his administration's response to adding on to their no vote for that UN resolution. And so I'm just coming back from Accra, Ghana, because world leaders are convening around advancing reparations. In March, there was a UN resolution that acknowledged that the institution of slavery, trafficking and enslaving Africans, and its legacies is the gravest crime against humanity. Since then, we've had the Vatican, the Pope, France, Scotland, other nations that many convened in Accra, Ghana, invited by the Ghanaian government, beginning a process towards reparations. At the same time, I'm sitting there amongst world leaders, and my president is attacking and suing my city. So I believe that it is an attack on reparations because the world is moving towards redress.
Yeah.
I kind of got like two questions, but I'm first, someone who's listening, how do you prove that you're eligible for this particular program?
So eligibility is for Evanstonians that can prove they lived here in between 1919 and 1969. And they can show their proof by birth certificates, of course, marriage licenses. Our library actually pulled all Evanston phone books, yearbooks, death records, newspapers, so that community members could prove their eligibility, that they were here during that time and space, meaning that they were harmed. And you could be a direct descendant. So I qualify because several generations of my family have lived in Evanston during that period of harm.
And my second question is, how can you share like a story how it impacted a family or a family actually benefited from it?
Absolutely. So there's over 200 recipients now at this point. And so there's that many stories to tell. I'll pick one. One family that I know had 3 generations of their families received reparations benefit. So in one case, the mother handed it down to her daughter. The daughter actually expanded and improved her home that she shares with her son also that's eligible. So in her case, she made home improvements, including establishing an ADU, so an accessory dwelling unit, so that her son could have independence and the sort of experience of home ownership with this reparations benefits. In some cases, recipients that already own homes were able to get some debt relief and pay balances. And in other cases, I know a sister in town that actually went to continue her education and went on to get a master's degree and fund that with her reparations benefit. We have seniors that have done deferred maintenance where they've needed to have more mobility around their homes. We have others that just wanted a dream kitchen. We have some that just, banked it so that they could have some relief when life circumstances happen. But there's no doubt that $20 million of wealth is being created in the Black community in Evanston. But the value add is so much more than the $20 million. The additional benefits that the community has contributed. Our allies have raised an additional $1 million to support the reparations program that we have. And we have additional institutions that have provided financial education and literacy, education around health and well-being, entrepreneurship support. And it's just overall changed hearts and minds in a way that I don't think we would have gotten here before. Equity had proven not to be enough. It was insufficient. Policymaking was ordinary. It was helpful, but not helpful to address the crimes against our humanity as Black people in Evanston, Illinois. And so there's a long list of ways you can follow more of that. The Roundtable in Evanston does a good job on reporting on the outcomes.
One more question for me. Although I do applaud what you're doing, and I'm grateful that the money is helping families that have been through what they've been through. How do you determine that financial amount? You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty sure what families have gone through most likely adds up to more than $25,000 of restoration.
No doubt. $25,000 alone is insufficient. So That's not even up for debate. The issue is here that this is a multifaceted harm and multiple levels of government are responsible. So Evanston is also responsible for more than the $25,000. That was an attainable first tangible step I thought was important so that we can show and prove. We could prove the concept where others said it's not possible, you can't legislate it, it's a political non-starter. Now we have something to build on. So let me just go on record as saying 25,000 is insufficient, but also this is a matter of state government and also federal government. So ultimately, all of our localities that are doing this work hyper locally share a North Star, which is a federal redress bill, HR 40, or whether it turns into something other than HR 40. But the United States government, the one that created and orchestrated, architect of the institution of slavery and these harms, is ultimately responsible. There are calculations in the 14 trillion, 15 trillion. But I thought as a city councilwoman that I might do what I can do in my purview, that I can't point to my congressperson and claim what they're not doing if I couldn't do it in my city in Evanston, Illinois. And so my hope was that this be a call to action, not that we could solve the racial gaps, the harm, the police terror that we experience as Black people in my small city, Evanston, but that we can get more and more. If we could show and prove that it's possible, little by little, we are beginning to address the issue of repair one city at a time.
Absolutely.
Real quick, what do you say to this quote right here about the program? Simply handing out money based on race, however, is not the answer.
Well, we are addressing laws that were simply discriminating because of race. Because we were Black, we didn't have access to housing. Because we were Black, we didn't have access to education. And so our policymaking and our budget allocations need to become as targeted as Jim Crow was, as targeted as the racism was that we dealt with. There is no other way for us to address the impact that we have and that we still endure every day as Black people. So the racism is still currently baked into our policy today. It's hidden in zoning. It's hidden in budgeting. We don't have a voice in leadership because we don't have ownership. We don't have ownership because we don't have access, because we don't have fair wages. So that's why I drew the conclusion that reparations is the only sufficient way to address this. It must be targeted to the community that was harmed. That community is me. That community is you. That community is Black communities all across the United States. Reparations are possible. We have shown it in Evanston. And I'm just thrilled to see the legal support that we have, not only from our city law department, but also from outside movement lawyers and experts from across the United States and from across the world.
Yeah. Well, keep up the good work. You're fighting a good fight. You're making some steps, and I think hopefully we can see this happen on a broader scale, not just from Evanston and other cities, but across the entire country.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, we appreciate you, man. Miss Robin Rue Simmons hanging out with us, representing and pushing for the fight for reparations out of Evanston, Illinois, man. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.